The Monday, May 23rd, 2011 South Bend Common Council is now in session. I'll rise for the invocation by Councilmember Ann Cusello.
Dear God, please be with us this evening as we try to listen with a whole heart and a whole mind to people's opinions and concerning the bills we're looking at this evening, and help us to vote for the best that can be done for the city now and in the future. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Forty, read the roll.
Mr. Henry Davis is absent. Mr. LaFountain?
Here.
Mrs. Pizzello?
Present.
Dr. Varner?
Present.
Vice President Oliver Davis?
Present.
Mr. Curson?
Present.
Councilmember Rouse?
Present.
Councilmember White?
Present.
President Deere?
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. You get the report from the Subcommittee on Minutes.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the May 9th, 2011 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved. Signed, Derek Dieter, David Varner.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the report from the Subcommittee on Minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Proceed to special business. Mr. Forty, will you read 1138?
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, publicly commending the John Adams High School, the Ruckus, for winning their second National High School Mock Trial Championship.
Thank you. Mr. LaFountain.
Thank you, sir. First, could I have Team Ruckus up here along with their coaches and their supervisor? Or whatever you are. Right here. I want to say this will be the last time I'll be able to do this, but it's kind of become a tradition for me in the 3rd District to have the Adams High School mock trial team come up here. Some of you look familiar. But, if I may, the resolution. The resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, publicly commending the John Adams High Schools, the Ruckus, for winning their second National High School Mock Trial Championship. Whereas retired U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor noted that the high school mock trial program is aimed to stimulate and encourage a deeper understanding and appreciation of the American legal system by providing an opportunity for students to learn about the judicial system through a hands-on experience when she opened the 2011 award banquet in downtown Phoenix earlier this month. And whereas, through mock trials, high school students gain an understanding of society's approach to dispute resolution and justice through an experiential learning opportunity where they can acquire skills in critical thinking and reasoning, oral advocacy, teamwork, and citizenship involving a hypothetical case where mock trial team members compete in actual courtrooms and display their knowledge. And whereas the Common Council of South Bend, Indiana is proud to recognize that 38 teams from 43 states, Guam, Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, South Korea, and Australia, competed with John Adams High School mock trial team, with the Ruckus winning the 2011 National High School Mock Trial Championship. And this year represents John Adams' 11th straight Indiana State Championship.
Wow.
And whereas the Common Council would especially like to publicly recognize all the members of the Adams, the Ruckus, namely Jeff Burdell, Matt Camponegro, Peter Doyle, Jeremy Doyle. You know, I had trouble with this one last year, too. Thank you. Seja Aid, David Kurt, I apologize to you, Seja. Toby Stoner, Heath Weaver, who serves as the faculty sponsor, Maria Camponegro, timekeeper, John Scanlon, coach, Aaron Linder, coach, Andrew Jones, coach, and Lucas Burkett, coach. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, as follows. Section 1, on behalf of all the citizens of the City of South Bend, Indiana, the Common Council hereby congratulates each and every member of the John Adams High School mock trial team, called the Ruckus, for winning the 2011 National High School Mock Trial Championship in Phoenix, Arizona. Section 2, the South Bend Common Council believes that the hard work, discipline, and dedication of the students on the Ruckus has enabled each of these dedicated and talented individuals to be excellent role models for all students throughout our country. And each team member has brought the highest of honors to themselves, to their family and friends, John Adams High School, the South Bend Community School Corporation, and all the residents of the City of South Bend, Indiana. Section 3, the Ruckus followed in the footsteps of Adams winning the 2009 national title, with this year's championship marking the 10th time that an Adams High School mock trial team has finished in the top 10 nationally. The Common Council is proud to celebrate with you and congratulate each of you. Section 4. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Council and approval by the Mayor. I move that we confirm resolution number 410211.
All right, thank you very much.
Second.
Wait, hold on. Do we have anybody who would like to speak in favor of 1138?
Should I give my name and address?
Yeah.
Heath Weaver, 1701 East Wayne Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46615. I just want to thank all of you for recognizing this great group of kids and their coaches. It was a pleasure to work with them this year. At times, they worked upwards of 40 hours a week prior to Nationals. We started in October, and we finished a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So they've been doing this all year. They're the hardest working group of kids I've ever seen. They brought a lot of recognition to our city, our schools, and I just am very proud to be associated with them. And I want to thank you guys for recognizing them. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that their coaches donate their time, an immense amount of time to help coach them. So thank you. And of course, their parents give up a lot of time shuffling them back and forth, fundraising for the expenses to go to nationals and state. And it's been a wonderful experience. And so I just want to thank you all for recognizing them. And I want to thank them for being such a great team.
All right, thank you.
Please pass the resolution.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to litigate against?
We have a bunch of people who practiced this or went into this competition as lawyers, and none of you wants to speak.
This is pro bono, Mr. LaFountain. You should speak in favor.
Thank you for the privilege. First of all, I'd like to thank the Common Council for
Name and address,
acknowledging...
ma'am, for the record, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stephanie Spivey, 1812 Dutch Court, South Bend, 46614. I want to thank the Council for the acknowledgement of our mock trial winners. They are the world's best. And so just want to thank you for the acknowledgement. It means a lot to young people. And on behalf of our corporation, we are very proud of all of you, and to include the parents. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Since no one else would like to speak against, which is good, we'd like, before the council takes any further action, we'd like each member to come up and introduce yourself, please. And remember, you only have like 30 seconds.
Oh, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. My name is Matt Caponegro. I played an attorney on both sides of the case this year.
My name is Jeff Burdell. I was two parts, actually. On one side, the plaintiff side, I was a lawyer. And on the other side, I was Tobias Skook, the mining superintendent of Intrepid Mining Corporation, Harrelson. Hi, I'm Peter Doyle. I was a witness on both sides of the case. On one side, I was the chief of the Indian tribe, and the other side, I was a hydrogeologist. I'm David Kern. On the defense, I was an attorney, and on the plaintiff, I was Terry Berkowitz, an environmental law professor from New York City.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Doyle, and I was a lawyer on the defense side.
Hi, my name is Toby Stoner, and I was a lawyer for the plaintiff side.
My name is Seja Aid, and I was a double witness. On the plaintiff, I was Scowling Fox, spiritual leader of the Dabaha tribe. And on the defense, I was Yuma Sosi, president of the Chamber of Commerce of the Greater Northern Arizona area.
Hi, I'm Maria Caponegro, and I was the timekeeper.
Hello, my name's Lucas Burkett, and I am the drama coach.
Hi, I'm John Scanlon, and I was, I guess, the oldest and most experienced of 3 lawyers that helped the kids prepare.
Thank you very much. Counsel, comments?
Congratulations, and I'd like to second the motion that this be approved.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Who else they got?
Actually, if I may take a second. In addition to tonight's resolution, the mayor, who is out of town right now, has asked me to present each and every one of you with a key to the city. So I have one with everybody's name on it, and you'll try to figure out how this is going to work. But, yeah, well, Maria Caponegro.
And after you receive that, come up to the council.
Congratulations. Seja.
Congratulations. Thanks. Welcome. You're welcome. Good
You want to
job.
Jeremy Doyle. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Philly Stoner.
They smile like stuff. So the camera.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, young man.
And Sheriff, what's up, buddy?
Congratulations.
Good job, buddy. Congratulations. Good job.
Peter Doyle.
First district man, good job, buddy. Keep up the good work.
Yes, I am. I'm either one.
Congratulations.
Hey, remember yelling at you? You two have already received that, buddy.
Congratulations.
I was wondering, that was me. Up to the work, buddy. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations.
Good job.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Keep up the good work. You're welcome.
And congratulations to all the parents who raised very nice children.
And Alan, it was.
Yes, for sure.
Do we have any reports of city offices? Seeing none. Can I have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Committee of the whole is in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where we meet as a committee and discuss the items that came before the council's standing committees earlier this afternoon. We will ask that the presenter will come and present the petitions, and then we will have a public hearing in this portion of the council meeting. Mr. Vorty, would you please read public or Bill 1311?
Public hearing on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located in the 400 block of North Notre Dame Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 46617, Councilmanic District 4 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
I move that 1311 and 1411 be combined for purposes of public hearing.
Second.
You've heard the motion and a second to combine 1311 and 1411 for purposes of a public hearing. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carried. Is there a committee report?
No.
You got to read the second one.
Read the second one and then we'll...
All right, go ahead, Mr. Vorty.
1411. Public hearing on a bill to vacate the following described property. The alleys to be vacated are described as the first east-west alley south of Cedar Street between Hill Street and St. Louis Boulevard, approximately 344 feet. the first north-south alley east of Hill Street between Cedar Street and Madison Street, approximately 410 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Is there a committee report on these two bills?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met this afternoon, and we bring bills number 1311 and 1411 to you, the full council, with a favorable report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Petitioner, presenter present, please.
Kristen Naylor with the Area Planning Commission offices on the 11th floor. I will only be presenting on Bill 1311, and then the presenter for 1411 can come up after that. This is a request for a zone change from the O Office District and the MU Mixed Use District to the SF2 Single Family and Two Family District to allow a high school, that being St. Joe High School, and the area is south of Cedar, west of Notre Dame, north of LaSalle, and east of St. Peter. I'm sorry, St. Louis. St. Peter's the one that kind of runs through the middle. We have some pictures of the site, which is in the process of being demolished, and I believe by now all of the buildings have been taken down, and I think we're kind of moving dirt around as it is. So this is just from the four corners of that block. There is no site plan required because we are going to a residential district. However, there was a site plan that was presented as part of the variance request before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and those variances were approved at the May 4th Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. To the north are medical office buildings zoned O Office District. To the east are vacant properties in the Women's Care Center, zoned MU Mixed Use District. To the south is the Family Dollar, which is not part of this rezoning, zoned Mixed Use District. And to the south across LaSalle Street are some small businesses zoned MU Mixed Use District. To the west are the formal parking lots used by the hospital and a few single-family homes, all zoned MU Mixed Use District. In 2003, at the time of the Northeast Neighborhood Development Plan, the redevelopment of this site was made a goal in response to the 2002 announcement that the hospital would be relocating. This comes to you as a favorable recommendation from the Area Plan Commission. The reuse of the recently abandoned medical facility for a high school is compatible with the adjacent mixed uses and will be a positive investment in the neighborhood. Any questions for me?
Any questions of the presenter? Seeing, not hearing, none, no, thank you. Will the petitioner come and please state his name and address?
Thank you. Mike Dance from Dance Harner and Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the petitioners on both bills. As Chris had mentioned on the first one, what we're doing is asking for rezoning for the old St. Joseph Hospital site. Right now, the hospital has zoning. It's a split zoning of O Office and mixed use. What we would like to be able to do is build a new St. Joseph High School on the petition site that you see before you. Under the existing zoning category for the city of South Bend, a high school or any type of school is not allowed under the O Office or the mixed-use zoning. So what we have to do here is actually downzone it to the SF2 district, which is a permitted use, and it allows for the high school under that classification. As I had shown council this afternoon at the committee meeting, we gave you a preliminary site plan that showed the approximate location of where the high school would be located, which would be at the northern end of the site. The petition site itself is around about 14.5 acres, and as Krista had mentioned, it does not include the Dollar General site or the small portion of St. Peter Street, which is located at our south boundary. But what the whole project does include are the two adjacent properties on the west side of St. Louis, south of Cedar Street, and in between on both sides of Madison, which would be the off-site parking area. The building itself would be 2 stories. It would probably be about 90,000 square feet plus, somewhere in that particular area. What we will also have are a lot of accessory buildings. There'll be 5 accessory structures, which will be located south of the proposed building. That's where the athletic fields would be. There's going to be a concession stand. There'll be seating around the stadium area. There'll be a scoreboard sign and a press box. As Krista had mentioned, we had gone to the Board of Zoning Appeals at the beginning of May, and we had requested several variances for the location of those structures on the property, the height of the building, some flexibility flexibility where the parking would be located on this property and off the property, and also flexibility in the location of landscaping around the entire site. The Board of Zoning Appeals did approve those variances for us so that we proceed to the rezoning portion of this site. The second bill before you this evening is the alley vacation, and that is on the property that is located directly to the west of the petition site. We plan on using that one. We had shown it on our site plan as parcel B. That will be an off-site parking area. Right now, there is an existing 14-foot wide public alley that runs north-south from Cedar Street down to Madison Street and from Hill Street over to St. Louis. What we would like to be able to do is vacate those two alleys, and that would allow us to take the land that's there and reconfigure it for a parking area. What we're proposing to put at that location would be 211 parking spaces, which will basically be used to service the new high school facility. With council's approval on the rezoning and the alley vacation, we could proceed with this particular project. The schedule right now to start construction, assuming we received all our approvals, would be in June. What they'd like to be able to do, if everything ran very smoothly, would be to open the high school in August of 2012. Right now, they're looking at a construction cost of probably around $30 to $35 million for this project. And if council has any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Danch. Mr. Davis, please.
You said Dollar General, but it's Family Dollar.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Family Dollar, that this is not included.
That's correct. What would have to happen in order for St. Joseph High School to be able to build the athletic fields completely, as we had shown council on the preliminary site plan, that property would have to be acquired, and there would also have to be a vacation procedure submitted for St. Peter Street for that little small portion that we had shown council on the site plan.
But this is not...
But this does not include that property. It has nothing to do with that. This is just to get us through so we're able to build the school.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, council? Question, Mr. Dance? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. We will have public hearing on both 1311 and 1411 and then vote on it separate. Anyone present wishing to speak in favor of either of these two bills, 1311 or 1411, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and give us your thoughts. Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Well, here comes someone.
Mr. Rouse, Council, I'm Gary King, 730 North Hill Street, live in the 4th District, about 5 blocks from that property. We've driven past St. Joe Hospital for years. We're a little sorry to see it leave, but I cannot think of a possibly better use of the property than to have St. Joe High School build there, and I would strongly urge you to approve the rezoning and the vacation of the alleys as requested.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the two bills? Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Seeing none, hearing none. Council members, is there a motion, please, on 1311?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
Heard the motion in the second. To pass the passage of 1311, go to full council with a favorable recommendation. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Motion on 1411.
Favorable recommendation, 1411.
You've heard the motion in the second, the favorable recommendation of 1411. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Mr. Boyd, would you please read Bill 1911?
Public hearing on a bill to vacate the following described property. Lincoln Way West from Mayflower Road east approximately 1,400 feet.
Thank you, sir. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee heard 1911, the committee this afternoon, and I'm believing that was a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Varner. Dr. Varner, presenter, please.
My name is John Shalil. I'm the airport director from South Bend Regional Airport, 4477 Progress Drive, South Bend. Back in 2007, a portion of Lincoln Way was relocated south That relocation started approximately 300 feet east of Lexington and ended at Mayflower Road. We are requesting that that portion of the old Lincoln Way, the unrelocated portion, be vacated and title vested in the Airport Authority. We own the property on both sides of this now abandoned strip of property. So I would ask that vacation be favorably considered.
Thank you, sir. Is there a council member wishing to ask Mr. Shalio any questions, please? Seeing none, hearing none. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1911, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Move in favor of that, 1911. Recommendation, yes.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second to send 1911 to full council with a favorable recommendation. All in favor so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Voight, would you please read bill number 2011?
Public hearing on a bill to vacate the following described property. The alley to be vacated is the first north-south alley east of Michigan Street from Dayton Street south to the first east-west alley for a distance of 137 feet and a width of 14 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Voight. Is there a committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Public Works and Property Vacation had a committee hearing on Bill 2011, and it comes to council this afternoon with no recommendation because there was a question about fire safety concerns with regard to a hydrant.
All right, thank you, Dr. Petitioner, please state your name and address.
Michael Smith, 19448 Roosevelt Road, South Bend, Indiana, 46614. I'm here today to put this in front of the council. There's a property adjacent to a house on 114 East Dayton Street, which my nephew and niece own. They bought the property 112 across the alley from which, and there's an abandoned building which I'm under the assumption has been purchased by somebody through the tax program next to that. Other than that alley, it's virtually used for nothing that I've ever seen of good, let's put it that way. It's we've been taking care of it for about 11 years now, mowing the grass around it, this, that, and the other. I have checked the fire hydrants out. There's not one on the corner of Dayton and Michigan, but there is one on Milton and Michigan, which is behind it. There's one on the corner of St. Joe and Dayton, and there's another one on the corner of St. Joe and Milton. So there's three of them surrounding this property, and the one on St. Joe is actually the closest one to the property, but we would have no hardships on letting the fire department get to if they had to. We're also planning on trying to put a fence up, and we'll allow a 12-foot gate for access for AEP or whoever needs to get in there. The police department, as was said earlier, is more than willing to do that, allow this if you guys see fit. And we'd just like to consider that. All it would be made into for us is a play area with a fence around it, grass type area. There is an addition to be added on, which is on the existing 114 for a garage, a small garage addition, but that has nothing to do with the alley as far as going across the alley or anything. I'm just hoping that we could get this through, and we're more than open to letting people get on the property as needed. So,
all right, Mr. Smith, thank you. Any council member have a question?
Can we hear from Mr. Councilman Curtis regarding
the nature of the sitting without request was my concern that Captain Buddy Curtis was not present during the committee meeting.
Battalion chief.
And the battalion chief of the. So I'm going to give him a chance to put our concerns to rest or speak in his concerns.
No, actually, I see no problems with that. I think and you have an access gate there. That's
yes.
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Any other council member have a question or concern? Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion? May I hear from the public, please? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2011, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Anyone present wishing to speak against it?
No, she's
coming forward. All right. Please state your name and address, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Maddie Alonso, and I'm at 115 Milton Street, and I'm right on the corner of that alley off Michigan. And I, for one, agree with vacating that alley.
Very good.
We need to use it for good cause.
Thank you. Anyone else present wishing to speak in favor of the motion, of the bill? Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Seeing none, hearing none. Council members, can we have a motion, please?
Move for favor recommendation.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send 2011 to full council favorably. All in favor so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. It goes favorably. Mr. Vorty, would you please read Bill 2311?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $177,000 within Parks and Recreation Fund number 201 for graffiti removal activities.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, since the Health and Public Safety Committee has held a number of committee meetings dating all the way back to 2008, with the most recent one being May 17, 2011. And we're very proud to bring forth to the council with a favorable recommendation in support of Bill 23-11.
Thank you, Ms. White. Petitioner present, please state your name and address.
Good evening, Council. My name is Phil St. Clair. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. My office is at 321 East Walter Street in South Bend. As we've discussed in the past few weeks, the Parks Department has had an extensive experience with dealing with graffiti in parks. We typically spend about 800 man-hours a year removing graffiti in parks and park properties throughout the city of South Bend. When we were approached to take a more comprehensive look at a citywide graffiti approach, we had staff begin to research some of the efforts that other communities have done around the country, some close by and some not so close. We've worked pretty hard over the last few weeks to try to put together what we think is a good proposal that partners with the police department, the Department of Code Enforcement, and the legal department to address graffiti here in South Bend. As we've researched this, we've used our experience as well as the research to learn about a variety of different approaches to removing graffiti. The man who will be overseeing the day-to-day operations is here, and he can go into more specific detail on the differences between soda blasting and sand blasting, environmentally safe chemicals that are used, painting techniques. We've got some background on that, and we'll use that background and experience when we get involved in this large scope of graffiti removal. We've also partnered with Chief Boykins in the police department. He has a small staff that will work, summer staff that work with our folks. We also have had volunteer groups in the past and will continue to use volunteers to assist in some graffiti abatement. So I think that we're looking at some really comprehensive ways to get it cleaned up. We also are exploring ways to where we might be able to engage the community and the youth, get them better educated on the difficulties that graffiti brings to a community. We'd like to work with police in finding ways to encourage kids to be more proactive. Some of our programmers here in the city of South Bend with our Parks Department are going to be meeting with neighborhood groups and with other civic organizations to talk about how they might be able to be more proactive with regards to graffiti, either reporting it or helping abate it. So we think that we're looking at a variety of different things that we think might help us deal with graffiti. We know that there's about 600 graffiti sites right now in South Bend that have to be addressed. And our request here tonight before you is to approve the funds so we may begin the operations to start our graffiti abatement program, as well as invest in the roughly $80,000 in capital that we would need to get the program underway. I will say that the $80,000 that we invest in capital, the life expectancy of that equipment will be anywhere from 10 to 15 years. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions. Thank you.
All right, Mr. St. Clair. Council members, any question? Dr. Varner, and then Mr. Davis.
So is your full-time staff member an existing staff member, or are we going to be adding?
They'll be added.
Okay. part-time also? Is that, you're looking at that as summer help, or are you looking at that as year-round?
We'll be doing part-time work, a couple part-time workers that'll be helping over the summer.
Okay, and as you're proposing this, is this a year-round operation?
Yes, it is, and that's one of the important things about this, is a 12-month sustainable operation. Yeah, we found last year, in the end of December, when we had a little break in the weather, that we had a really bad outbreak of graffiti right after Christmas, and so I think one of the benefits of being able to be skilled in the type of chemicals and also in using soda blasting, that works very well in the winter for us, and so we think that we'll be doing a number of things in the winter with graffiti, but certainly whenever the weather breaks, it does get busy. But we'll be doing catch up in a lot of other different things in the winter, as well as trying to take care of the things that happen when the weather breaks.
Okay, one last question, please, Phil. You mentioned approximately 600 sites. If you took that 600 right now and no additional ones were added, how far do you think you'd get between now and... Would you get all 600 sites, do you believe?
I think we'll get all 600 sites by the end of the year, because we know that we know that there'll be a number of other sites. And one of the things about graffiti is that success with graffiti it depends a lot on how effective you are to reacting to it quickly and getting it off. Generally, about 80% of graffiti that's tagged, if you can get that off within 2 to 3 days, it won't come back. 20-25% is going to be a repeat problem for a while. But a lot of times, if you're proactive, you can really cut the number down.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Mr. Davis.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you and your team, Mr. St. Clair, for what you all have done and working with Councilwoman White and that team, because on behalf of those of us who live in the 6th District, while graffiti is a citywide problem, we really have been targeted over the last few years, and the whole concept of having this year-wide program is going to be very beneficial, because Westside Hardware, all up Western Avenue, 4th Street, many of those other places are some of the places that you've mentioned during that period of the winter that just really got targeted. And waiting to the summertime leaves us 5 months for that still staying in the house, which adds to the graffiti problem. And I think the program that you have outlined can go now and take care of those kind of issues immediately within 72 hours or so. And I think that's going to really help people who do this kind of issue know that we actually are fighting strongly against it. We have put money against it. We have employees. And I personally want to thank you and this team, because this is something that's been long overdue and been wanting to do, and I'm glad to see it done.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Dieter, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Did you receive an email, and I think the council today, of a business person on the south side who had experience? Odell? I don't know.
We've had some interest with some contractors. Some of the prices that we've had sent to us would it would put us completely way up.
I just didn't know.
I think that where there's opportunities to partner with local businesses, whether it be training or buying supplies, things like that, I think we'll take advantage of that. But we haven't seen a better overall cost benefit.
Right, and I appreciate all the hard work that your staff. I'm just hoping, and I hope that the press alludes to that fact, that once these people are caught, that our prosecutor's office and juvenile justice center does not make any deals and make examples of the people that we do catch in the end, to put on the police and enforcement side for all the work that we're going to be putting in, the hours, and like Mr. Davis said, especially in the 6th District over there, once they do get caught, I just hope that the legal part stands up when the rest of the city is trying to do something about this.
Thank you.
Ms. White, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I would like to thank members of the Health and Public Safety Committee and council members as well as the administration, starting with Mr. St. Clair, Lynn Coleman, the police department, and others, for really working very closely with our committee, because the charge that was given to administration, one, was to come up with a program to address graffiti, not from a short-term perspective, but to have a long-term program that could be sustainable. As you indicated, the $80,000 is for capital, and the lifetime frame for that is 10 to 15 years. I believe that's money well spent. I would like to also ask that as you continue to roll this program out, if you could give quarterly reports back to the Health and Public Safety Committee so we would know what the status is. But Likewise, I have had discussions with our council attorney. We'll be looking at other ordinance in terms of really addressing graffiti in terms of what other communities have done in terms of selling spray paint to individuals under 18. And so we're going to be continually looking at working very closely with administration in terms of how this community will address graffiti. I think we're off to a very wonderful start, and just thank you for all the hard work in putting up with the committee, and I'm very proud of what we have before us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, you have further comments?
Yes, in terms of church groups, organizations that want to volunteer and help you, again, what should they do?
Well, first of all, the first thing that I want to recommend to everybody is if they see acts of graffiti going on, or if they just see graffiti, period, it is a crime, and we want them to report that to the police department. The police department will track all instances of graffiti before the locations to us. We'll do the abatement, or we'll be forwarding information to code enforcement, and code may cite private properties depending on the graffiti, and there'll be some factors the code will have to consider as well, legal. But the important thing is we need to have it tracked, we need to know where it's at. That way, it helps the police department step up patrols in certain areas where we know they're bad. If we repeatedly get a certain block or couple block area hit, if it's reported to police and they can track it, then they can take a better strategic approach to trying to stop that graffiti in that particular neighborhood. And it also helps us as we begin to assign workloads on what areas we need to concentrate as well. So I would say call it in to the police department if they see graffiti. As far as volunteer groups go and wanting to do some graffiti abatement, I would ask them to call the Parks Maintenance Facility, 235-9414, and we'll get that information out. We also are working on a graffiti website. It's going to take us a little time. We're hoping to have it done in a couple of months. But we'd like to be able to put on our website, the graffiti website, a lot of different actions that the community can take with regards to graffiti and reporting procedures and just how we as a community deal with graffiti.
Thank you, because that way the neighborhood associations, I know some of them want to be able to volunteer to that, so they can just go ahead and call you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other council member have a question or comment? Seeing none, hearing none. Anyone in the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2311, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Well, I certainly appreciate Fred Furlick. It's 830 Oak Ridge, 46617. I'm in Ann Puzzello's district. And I'm certainly in favor of eradicating graffiti. The problem I have, and other people have expressed to me, is in the era of declining tax revenues, adding one more full-time person to Parks and Recreation staff with benefits and pension. Obviously, the police will be in charge of enforcement of this and reporting. Obviously, they'll be involved with it. The third part of the equation is the eradication of it. I think, is there a way to involve, let's say, 4 to 6 youth per summer? Let's say George McCullough chooses his best 4 to 6 students he had and reward them with a summer job. Okay, there will not be full-time equivalents, but they'll make a good salary over the summer and reward them for their work they did, let's say, at Washington High School. The second part of it is many cities, such as Seattle and others, have used art students to paint over the graffiti. And even when the taggers come along, the taggers have now been converts to good art, to art that's representative and that all people enjoy. So that's a different approach, and maybe a little more imaginative approach, without getting involved in this era of declining tax revenues with another full-time equivalent. So I just offer that to Phil, and I appreciate all the work that everybody's done on this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Furlick. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of 2311, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Mary Ellen O'Connell. I live at 129 West North Shore Drive. I also live in Ann Pizzella's district, and I very much favor this bill. I would love to see somebody full-time added for this project. We have brand-new graffiti on the railway bridge on Leeper Street today. It's there constantly. If we don't address this problem on a full-time, committed basis, as has been suggested in the bill, we will not get a handle on it. We need to add to any new employees, summer students, of course, but why wouldn't we give this expertise an established basis in our city where we need it so much?
Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2311? Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Given Mr. Furley's comments, I'm going to ask Phil St. Clair to come and give him a chance for rebuttal.
In reference to Dr. Furley's comments, there's certainly good comments and good concerns to have. We do typically like to get volunteers to help us, and we do hire summer youth to do a variety of things in Parks and Rec. Unfortunately, some of the graffiti removal we have requires the use of chemicals and high-pressure washers and sprayers, and a lot of times you can't have the teenagers using that type of equipment. Sometimes it involves working around the train trestles and things like that, and it's a more complicated job than that. Chief Wilkins has a good program that will work with us. He has a number of youth that will go in and do some graffiti abatement in neighborhoods. They've done houses and things like that, the back of garages and that type of stuff. And I think that's all good stuff, and we can continue to do those types of things with the youth. But I think a 12-month sustainable graffiti program that really attacks the problems and uses a comprehensive approach with what we have to deal with in this community is probably the way to approach it. I will say that researching this, that historically around the nation, with cities that are 250,000 or less, generally spend $1 per resident to do a graffiti program, and our $90,000, $91,000 operating costs and a 10-year write-off with our capital cost of $80,000 comes out to just about $100,000, which is about what the city population is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we've heard both the the pros and the cons. The council members is there a motion?
Move for a favorable recommendation. Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send 2311 to full council favorably. All in favor so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Mr. Gordy, would you please read Bill 2411?
Actually, for purposes of public hearing, can we hear all three of these? No, we have to. Okay.
One at a time.
I'm sorry.
Good try.
Yeah, okay.
2411, public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $215,000 from the Morris Performing Arts Center Improvement Fund, Fund 416, for the renovation and restoration of windows, doors, restrooms, exterior north wall, and architect and engineering fees.
Thank you, Mr. Gordy. Is there a committee report?
The Park Department met this afternoon concerning this bill, sent to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mrs. Pizzello. Is there a presenter present, please?
Dennis Andres, Executive Director of the Morris Performing Arts Center in the Palais Royale, with offices located at 211 North Michigan Street in South Bend. Bill 2411 requests approval of an appropriation of $215,000 from within the Morris Performing Arts Center Improvement Fund. Revenues for that fund are generated by a ticket surcharge, and the fund is used exclusively for capital improvements. In this particular case, a specific purpose, we will use that money to assist us in the renovation and restoration of the windows on the main windows of the auditorium theater, the doors, and also the renovation and restoration of the restrooms located in the lower level. In addition, there will be some exterior repairs to the north wall, other concrete repairs around the building, and it will also cover architect and engineering fees necessary for the renovation and restoration of the restrooms.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Andres. Anybody have a question for the presenter? Councilman? Seeing none, hearing none. Is anyone present wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2411? Anyone in the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2411? Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion from the council?
Motion for favor recommendation.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send 2411 to full council favorably. All in favor so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Vorty, would you please read Bill 2511?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $3,100 from the Morris Performing Arts Center and Palais Royale Marketing Fund, Fund number 273, for purchase of Morris Performing Arts Center ticket envelopes.
Thank you, Mr. Vorty. Committee report.
Parks Department met this afternoon concerning this bill and send it to council with a favorable recommendation.
Your petitioner, please.
Dennis Andres, Executive Director of the Morris Performing Arts Center in the Palais Royale, with offices located at 211 North Michigan Street. Bill 2511 requests approval of an appropriation of $3,100 from Fund 273. It is the marketing fund for the Morris and Palais. Marketing fund revenues accrue from solicitation of commercial promotion sponsorships and Morris Marquee sponsorships. In this specific case, we will receive revenue from the sale or of an advertising on the ticket envelopes, and that will cover the cost.
Thank you, Mr. Andres. Council, question of Mr. Andres? Seeing none, hearing none. Anyone in the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2511, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Anyone present wishing to speak against it, please come and state your name and address. Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Move for favor recommendation.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second to send it to full council favorably. All in favor so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Vorty, would you please read Bill 2611?
Public hearing on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, creating a Morris Performing Arts Center Palais Royale Ballroom Box Office Agency Fund, number 725.
Thank you. Committee report, please.
The Park Committee met this afternoon concerning this bill and send it to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Presenter.
Dennis Andres, Executive Director of the Morris Performing Arts Center, with offices located at 211 North Michigan Street in South Bend. Bill 2611 requests approval to establish a Performing Arts Palais Royale Agency Fund. The new Fund 725 will be non-reverting fund and may earn interest on outstanding cash balances. We are requesting the establishment of this fund at the recommendation of the State Board of Accounts to better reflect and handle and manage the accounts of the Morris and Palais.
Thank you, Mr. Andres. Is there a question of Mr. Andres from the council? Seeing none, hearing none. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2611, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Anyone present wishing to speak against it? Same option. Please come to the podium. Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion from the council?
For favor recommendation.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second to send 2611 to full council with a favorable recommendation. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it and the motion carries. And make a motion to arise from the committee of the whole.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, the motion carries.
Well, council's now in session. Mr. Vorty, third reading, 1311.
Third reading on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located in the 400 block of North Notre Dame Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 46617, Councilmanic District number 4 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Move for the passage of 1311.
Second. Vorty.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Curson.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Dean. Aye. 8 ayes.
1411.
Third reading on a bill to vacate the following described property. The alleys to be vacated are described as the first east-west alley south of Cedar Street between Hill Street and St. Louis Boulevard, approximately 344 feet. the first north-south alley east of Hill Street between Cedar and Madison Street, approximately 410 feet.
Move for passage of Bill 14-11.
Second.
40. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
1911.
Third reading on a bill to vacate the following described property, Lincoln Way West from Mayflower Road east approximately 1,400 feet.
Move for passage of Bill 19-11.
Second.
Mr. Vorty.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
President Dieter. 8 ayes.
2011.
Third reading on a bill to vacate the following described property. The alley to be vacated is the first north-south alley east of Michigan Street from Dayton Street south to the first east-west alley for a distance of 137 feet and a width of 14 feet.
Move for the passage of 2011.
Second.
40.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
President Dieter. 8 ayes.
2311.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $177,000 within Parks and Recreation Fund number 201 for graffiti removal activity.
Move for passage of 2311.
Second.
Mr. Vorty.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
2411.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $215,000 from the Morris Performing Arts Center Improvement Fund, Fund 416, for the renovation and restoration of windows, doors, restrooms, exterior north wall, and architect and engineering fees.
Move for the passage of 2411.
Second.
Mr. Vorty.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
President Dieter. 8 ayes.
2511.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating $3,100 from the Morris Performing Arts Center and Palais Royale Marketing Fund, Fund number 273, for the purchase of Morris Performing Arts Center ticket envelopes.
Move for passage of 2511.
Second.
Third 40. Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
2611.
Third reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, creating a Morris Performing Arts Center Palais Royale Ballroom Box Office Agency Fund, number 725.
Move for passage of Bill 26-11.
Second.
For 40, we do it. Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursich.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Dieter.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Two resolutions. They have a motion to continue 11/28 to June 13th.
So move.
We have a motion, now we have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? We have a motion to continue 11/30 to June 13th.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Mr. Vorty. But first, we need a motion to hear both 11:36 and 11:37.
So move.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Vorty.
1136. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 413 St. Louis Street, 417 St. Louis Street, 425 St. Louis Street, 418 Hill Street, 428 Hill Street, and 420 Hill Street, all in South Bend, Indiana.
Very much. You have a committee report. No, we don't.
Oh, that's ours. 1136 comes to full council favor.
Excuse me, 1137. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition for the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the properties located at 327 St. Louis Street, 333 St. Louis Street, 325 St. Louis Street, and 336 Hill Street, all in South Bend, Indiana.
Mr. Chair, President, all of those, both 1136 and 1137, come to the full council favor report from the Zoning and Annexation Committee that met this afternoon.
Thank you very much. We need to present her with a short synopsis on the project here. Oh, that's right, PCA.
Yes, and indeed, council members, Chuck Bulow, Building Department, with offices at 125 South Lafayette, South Bend, Indiana. Both 1136 and 1137 were heard at the May 4th hearing of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, and both of these special exception uses for parking lots for off-premise parking come to you with favorable recommendations.
All right, thank you. Mr. Danich.
Hello, Mike Daniel, Fire Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the petitioners for both of the off-site parking. Basically, this is the outside parking for St. Joe High School. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Very good, thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in favor of either of these two? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, council may have a recommendation for 1136.
Move for the adoption of Resolution 11-36.
Second.
Do you want to speak in favor? Opposition? Discussion, okay. Mr. Vorty, we have a motion to second.
Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner. Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursit. Aye. Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. And President Dean.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Next one, please.
Move for the passage of 1137, adoption.
Second.
Oh.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursit.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
President Dieters. Aye. 8 ayes.
Thank you. 1139, Mr. Vorty.
Can we hear them together?
A resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 1710 North Sheridan Street, to be an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 7-year real property tax abatement for Hoosier Tank and Manufacturing Incorporated.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tom Kanukin, Hoosier Tank and Manufacturing, 51930 Juniper Road in South Bend. We are requesting this tax abatement for a approximately 20,000 square foot addition onto our building at 1710 North Sheridan to be used as finished goods storage.
Thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in favor? Opposition? Council?
Move for the adoption of 1140.
Unreadiness.
1139.
1139. I'm jumping.
Are you still storing those tanks around the restrooms and in the middle of the floor?
Sir, we've gotten everywhere.
That's what we heard. We're good. We're going to try to help you out with that.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Did we have a second?
Yes,
Second.
Yes, we did. Mr. Vorty.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Cursit.
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse. Aye. Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzzello.
Aye.
Dr. Varner.
Aye.
President Dieters. 8 ayes.
1140.
A resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 1710 North Sheridan Street, to be an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year personal property tax abatement for Hoosier Tank and Manufacturing Incorporated.
Move for the adoption of 8-0.
Hold on, no. Go ahead, sir.
Tom Knutson again. We're requesting this tax abatement for the approximate $1.1 million of manufacturing equipment to help us in making the air tanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in favor of 1140? Opposition? None. Dr. Werner?
Move for the adoption of 1140.
Second. Mr. Forty. Mr. Kersitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Rowe.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain.
Aye.
Mrs. Puzzelli.
Aye.
Dr. Vine. Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
President Dee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you.
Move to strike 1131.
Second.
A motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition to that? Mr. Vorty, let's go to 1141.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend approving an order of the St. Joseph County Area Plan Commission approving a certain declaratory resolution and an amendment to the West Washington Chapin Development Area Development Plan adopted by the South Bend Redevelopment Commission.
Mr. Chairman, the Community Economic Development Committee met this afternoon and discussed this bill, sent it to full council with favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. We have a presenter. Mr. Shelby. Don't stand up, Fred. This might feel ugly.
3, 2, 1. Made it.
Good evening, Bill Shaler with the City of South Bend's Department of Community and Economic Development. I apologize, I asked my father to give me a call when he was done, and he got all the way home before he remembered to call, so.
That's about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, so parents are good for something, I suppose. Here today asking for your approval of this resolution to add a single property to the West Washington Chapin Development Area acquisition list. The property is a kind of a multi-use structure at this point in time. The City of South Bend, through the Tree Development Commission, is looking for uses for the property, and would be happy to answer any questions if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. We'll come back to the council portion. And anyone from the public like to speak in favor?
Good evening, council members. Jim Bogner, 805 West Washington Street, South Bend, Indiana. I am adjacent to the property that Mr. Shallier was discussing for the last 50 years. Spoke earlier today at the committee meeting, and I want to thank the council. A couple of issues here. I do think sometimes you have an opportunity to make important decisions about history. What he didn't mention was the gentleman that owned and built the property was William L. Kreiser. He came to South Bend in 1865. I think it's rather ironic that this property sits at the entrance of what I used to call the Innerbelt, but now the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Mr. Kreiser means a lot to me because he was a revenue agent before he came to the city of South Bend for the Union in the Civil War, meaning he was the money man, and you can't fight wars, we all know, without money. He came here and became involved in insurance and in real estate, and as a title work specialist. He was Mr. Oliver's money man. And as I mentioned earlier, anybody that ever had any property here can go back to what he originally started. I think this is an important step. As Mr. Varner knows, it's something that I have been watching very closely and will continue to do so. It's a very cumbersome process. I know asking for money at this time is very difficult, but I think it is something that is important. One of the things I want to tell you is you've done a lot of good in my neighborhood, and it will benefit me. But it especially benefits young folks who are coming to Cops Run, people from outside of this area that come in. If it is adapted or used for the museum or for something else that you want to have, it's
positive for this city and for everywhere. And I think it's really important, and I think it sends a proper message to all of you if you vote in favor of this. And I thank you very much, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor or opposition? Council, may I have a recommendation?
Move that 1141 be adopted.
Second.
Mr. Wardy. Councilmember Rouse.
Aye. Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. LaFountain. Aye. Mrs. Puzella.
Aye.
Dr. Varno. Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Curson.
Aye.
President Dean.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to continue 1142 to June 13th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? First reading, Mr. Vorey, let's go to 2911.
First reading on a bill amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 2014 South Michigan Street and 2018 South Michigan Street, Councilmanic District 3 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Move that 2911 be sent to Area Plan Commission.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? 3011.
First reading on a bill to vacate the following described property: Maple Road running north and south from Prairie Avenue to the St. Joseph Valley Parkway.
Mr. President, I move that 3011 be sent to Public Works and Property Vacation Committee, the second, third reading, and public hearing on 6/13.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? 3111.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving block party applications fee.
Move that 3111 be sent for second reading, public hearing, and third reading on 6/13 and sent to the Personnel and Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? 3211.
First reading on a bill of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 13, Article 10 of the South Bend Municipal Code concerning firearms.
Move that 3211 be sent to the Health and Public Safety Committee and set for second reading, third reading, and public hearing on June 13th.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? 3311.
First reading on a bill of the South Bend Common Council of the City of South Bend appropriating $1,708,707 from the Community Development Fund, Fund 212, for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program 3 for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the Department of Community and Economic Development of the City of South Bend, Indiana, and designated sub-grantee agencies for the program year beginning March 8, 2011, to be administered through the Department of Community and Economic Development.
Move that 3311 be sent to Community Economic Development Committee at the second, third reading, public hearing on 6/13.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Proceed to Bill 111. We need a motion to accept as a substitute.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then send this to zoning and annexation for 6/13.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? At the request of the petitioner, we need a motion to strike Bill 6110.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We also need a motion based on what took place at the Community and Economic Development Committee to set third substitute bill 2510 for public hearing, second and third reading on June 13th, and also send it to the Community and Economic Development Committee.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? New business before the council. Privilege of the floor. Anyone who wants to talk to the council this time at that podium for 3 minutes on something we have not covered. We need your name and address, and Dr. Varno will find you. Thank you.
Good evening again. As I said before, my name is Mary Ellen O'Connell. I live at 129 West North Shore Drive, and I am also a member of the board of the North Shore Triangle Neighborhood Association. And with me are the president of our neighborhood association, Barb Sutton.
I'm Barb Sutton. I live at 528 Osmo in South Bend, and I'm the president of the North Shore Triangle Neighborhood Association.
And also with us is our neighbor.
Michael Morricone, 124 Marquette Avenue, and a member of the Neighborhood Association.
And we're going to use our 3 minutes to just tell you about 3 very egregious examples of failure to enforce the city zoning and building codes. We're going to start with 132 Marquette. This house is listed currently on Friday, was listed for sale as a duplex. This house we are in a single-family zoned area. This house is a non-conforming use. It has been empty since August 2009. Michael has been informing the building code department of this fact since August 2009. Catherine Hofstetler and I have been emailing Mr. Bulow about this fact since January, and we have been sending many emails in the last few weeks. Ann Puzzella has been involved. There has been no action, and we just heard from Mr. Bulow tonight that he's only now going to react because he's heard from the owners and that he thinks he's going to be able to keep it as a duplex. This is one example. A second example, there is a house at 234 Waukee that has been abandoned for at least 6 months. There are pieces of the building falling off, flying in the breeze. It's obvious for everyone to see that this house has been abandoned. There has been no code enforcement action. There is a house at 309 Tonti that has had the front door boarded up for over a year, abandoned, boarded up building on the street, no action from the city. There have been complaints and complaints from our neighborhood association. We are tired of it. We would like to see action from this council, enforcement in all of these areas of building and zoning failures.
I would just basically like to say that we're living in a neighborhood where the houses are very close together. Having a multi-unit rental property on this street is not conducive to having the kind of neighborhood that we're looking for. This is a house that was grandfathered in, and it's supposed to lose its grandfathering after it's been unoccupied for 12 months. It's been well over that.
Our concern also is that before it became unoccupied, it was also a drug nuisance house. There is numerous phone calls to the police. And we're concerned that if it turns back into a duplex, multi-unit family house, it will again be occupied and become a nuisance property again.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. One of the, assign this to one of the committee chairs and they'll get a hold of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wants to speak to the council at this time?
Marty Wolfson, 809 Park Avenue in South Bend. I simply want to support a suggestion made by Councilman Oliver Davis that the council consider the situation of A.J. Wright and the general issue of compliance with its tax abatement ordinance. As we all know, A.J. Wright has now closed its facility in South Bend. It received an abatement, a 10-year abatement, which began in 2004. As a result of that abatement, A.J. Wright has paid from years 2004 through 2010 $1.4 million in taxes, and it has been abated $3.5 million in taxes. We know that the abatement was to encourage jobs at good wages, and we also know that A.J. Wright promised jobs at good wages, and has not delivered. So I think it's incumbent upon the council to take up this issue and decide what course of action it needs to take. And one other issue in connection with this, any money that is recovered from A.J. Wright, whether it's through the tax abatement issue or through the development agreement that A.J. Wright signed with the city of South Bend, I think the council should consider how that money is used, and if indeed any of that money should go to support the workers who have lost their jobs as a result of the closing of A.J. Wright. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak to this council? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Everybody.
Can take care of that.